Good morning, North America, good afternoon, Europe, and good evening to everyone watching in India. This is US Election Watch. I'm Allister D'Souza coming to you live from Washington, D.C. The headlines. Harris heads to Battleground states today. She will appeal to working-class voters. Trump will hold a virtual call with a key auto union. Trump says assassination bid could have turned into a mass shooting. Trump recalls the 2017 Vegas shooting, claiming crowds were bigger. Biden returns to the campaign trail after a 2-week vacation. Biden and Harris will hold a joint event in swing state Pennsylvania. And the controversy over Trump's visit to a military gravesite intensifies. Veterans' families defend Trump's visit, slamming Harris. Our top story, the US presidential race is entering a crucial stretch. In 8 days, Harris and Trump are set to debate a defining moment that could make or break their path to the White House. Meanwhile, it's Labor Day today, a public holiday here in the US. Labor Day traditionally signifies the beginning of the end of the election cycle. Kamala Harris will be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Monday to celebrate labor unions. An event is also scheduled in Detroit, Michigan, another union stronghold in a battleground state. Trump won't be on the road today, but he will be on a video call with current and retired members of the United Auto Workers. Enough though, even though that union has actually endorsed Kamala Harris. Now in other...
A crucial stage in the race to the Oval Office has begun. From the first swing state ballots hitting mailboxes this week to the much-awaited Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump debate on September 10th, key landmarks dot the election calendar. The first ballots of the election will go out on Friday in North Carolina, which is one of a handful of potentially critical Sun Belt states. Early in-person voting starts in Minnesota, South Dakota, and Virginia 2 weeks later. Both Harris and Trump campaigns are focusing on key battleground states. Harris is set to campaign in the company of US President Joe Biden in Pittsburgh. Reports suggest that it is part of a careful strategy to use Biden in a targeted way. Meanwhile, Trump will travel across the Upper Midwestern states. The focus has intensified on the blue wall states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, that were key to Trump's 2016 victory and then his loss to President Joe Biden in 2020. On Tuesday, the Harris campaign will begin a multi-state bus tour in Palm Beach, Florida, near Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. Reports say that the aim is to highlight Trump's role in appointing 3 of the Supreme Court justices who overturned the Roe v. Wade judgment in 2022. Reproductive rights remain as one of the key issues as the Harris campaign slammed Trump for his back and forth on the topic. On the other hand, Trump campaign senior official Corey Lewandowski has rejected rumors of a shakeup in the management of the former president's election bid, saying the operation's leadership will not change. An ABC Ipsos poll released on Sunday showed Harris with a 4-point lead over Trump among registered voters and a 6-point advantage among likely voters. Experts say that the race between Harris and Trump remains close. Neither Trump nor Harris seem to get a boost from their respective parties' conventions. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report, NDTV World.
So that's a lowdown of all that's happening on the campaign trail, including those mail-in ballots that go out later this week, Friday. In other news now, it just won't go away. A controversy over Trump using a cemetery for his political campaigning has started a firestorm that refuses to simmer down. Kamala Harris lashed out over the weekend. Families of military service members are furious, and Trump says he did nothing wrong. So, what exactly happened? A week ago, Trump visited Arlington National Cemetery to pay his respects to fallen military personnel. It was done to mark the third anniversary of the Kabul airport bombing as the US was pulling out of Afghanistan. 13 US service members died at the time. Last Monday, during Trump's visit to the gravesite, an altercation occurred. A cemetery employee was reportedly pushed as she tried to explain to Trump staffers that filming was banned in certain areas of the cemetery. And if that wasn't enough, the army then issued a rare public statement saying Trump's team violated the law which prohibits political campaigns or election activities in that cemetery. Kamala Harris said Trump has disrespected sacred ground and he has a disregard for the law. Trump says his staffers did nothing wrong and prior filming permission was granted. He also claimed he was invited for the ceremony and did not do it for publicity.
We're there and they said a prayer, different graves, one here, one there. And they said to me, I'm not surprised, I never even thought about it. Sir, would it be possible for you to have a picture with us by the tombstone of my son? You know, the beautiful white tombstones, marble, beautiful, beautiful things, and carved, engraved with the names on them. I said, absolutely. I wasn't doing it I don't need publicity. I get a lot of publicity.
Let's take a closer look at the story now. We are joined by Art Estopinen, a political strategist with nearly 3 decades of experience in the US Congress, and joining us, Ajay Bhutoria, Deputy National Finance Chair for the Democratic Party and an Asian American community leader. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. Now, Art, let me come to you first. Some of the families who invited Trump to the gravesite have come out strongly in favor of Trump. They say they invited Trump's team to film and take photographs at that gravesite, but the fact really remains that there are many other military families who say that this should never have happened. This was wrong, it was disrespectful and illegal. You just can't campaign here. Do you think that Trump's campaign got this wrong?
No, I don't think so, Allister. The fact of the matter is, what is shameful and what it is unforgivable is that we saw President Biden sleeping in the beach. He's been on vacation for 2 weeks, first in California and now in Delaware. And then Miss Harris was in her mansion like a few miles away. They are the reason why these 13 young people died, because of the batched withdrawal of the US forces in Afghanistan. This was a disaster from President Biden and Harris. And what Trump was doing is he was there because he was invited by the family. The family see President Trump, the family of these fallen young men and women, see President Trump as the true leader of the United States, the leader that is respected around the world. Harris and Biden, unfortunately, are not respected, and the American people see President Trump as the true leader.
Ajay, do you agree with that Harris and President Biden didn't do enough to mark the 3-year anniversary?
Well, I mean, in response to criticism regarding the Afghanistan, it is crucial to focus on the real issues rather than exploiting the death of our 13 brave service members for political attacks. And that's what Trump has been doing, using the sacred ground for political gain.
So you agree that President Trump, so you agree that President Biden and Ms. Harris acted well in Afghanistan? It was an embarrassment.
There is always opportunities for improvement in the way it was done, and we are not going back. And that's what Trump always wants to go back. And Biden administration is working to address the complex challenges surrounding the withdrawal and also continuing. With Trump had the chance to withdraw, he did not do it, but President Biden did it. And
he did.
As Vice President Kamala Harris has shown
he had a plan. But sir, he would never have allowed these 13.
Let's give him an opportunity to respond.
Respect for these sacred spaces. She has personally visited Arlington Cemetery several times and understands the honoring that our veterans should never be used for political gain, as Trump had tried to do that.
Not at all. I totally disagree with that.
This one is for you also now. Ajay, we'll come to you in a second. Art, now, this is not the first time that families of veterans have criticized Trump, right? There have been a few instances. 2015, Trump dismissed Senator McCain's military record in Vietnam. If you remember, for 5 years, McCain was held captive as prisoner of war. Trump, at that point, he said, I like people who weren't captured. Then his infamous remark calling Americans who died in war losers and suckers. Trump, of course, has denied that, but his own chief of staff says otherwise. What would you say? These are just not like a few slip-ups, but maybe this is really who Trump is.
Allister, so I understand that the liberal press in the United States has an agenda that they have to follow. And that agenda that is that President Trump is anti-military, but that is totally 100% wrong. The president rebuilt the military, which in just almost 4 years has been totally destroyed. Do you know how many naval ships are at dock because we don't have the military support? That never happened when President Trump was president. He also rebuilt all of our equipment, military equipment that President Biden has been given to Ukraine. President Trump is seen by the military and is supported by all kinds of veterans. That is an agenda that is untrue, that is promoted by the press. Unfortunately, the military men and women respect and honor President Trump as the chief because he did not have any wars around the world when he was president. Now we see what a disaster we're living. Russia invaded Ukraine. We see the Middle East. We see Latin America. There are wars everywhere under the Biden-Harris administration. When President Trump is reelected, we're going to see peace in the world once again.
Okay, Art and Ajay, do stay with us. We just come back to our discussion here, but we want to take a look at the latest survey on how the race is actually shaping out. An ABC Ipsos poll shows that Kamala Harris has a slight lead over Trump. This poll was conducted after the Democratic Convention, which was, of course, held late last month. It shows basically unchanged from before the convention. Question here to Ajay first. Let's look at some of the other things that this survey revealed. For example, the poll showed that a majority feel that Harris is running her campaign well, while fewer feel the same about Trump. We just spoke about the Arlington Cemetery controversy. So do you think that Trump here has bad advisors? Art, I'll come to you in just a bit, but we'll get this response from Ajay first. Or do you think that the problem really is Trump, who really can't take direction and stay on message?
So I just want to conclude that cemetery discussion saying that Trump had called our army and our veterans suckers and losers, and how dare he do that? He cannot do that. He had done it multiple times. It's a shameful act that a commander-in-chief could call our people of army and veterans suckers and losers. That's a shameful thing. Now, coming to the race, Vice President Harris has been running for the future and to turn the page on division of Donald Trump, and Americans are energized behind that message. Since Vice President entered the race, she has raised more than $500 million, a historic sum. We have over 312 coordinated office with 2,000 coordinated staff in the battleground states. And in every battleground state, Republican governors, Republican mayors are coming and joining our campaign and supporting Harris more and more. Vice President Harris holds on the core issues of crime, democracy, abortion, healthcare, gun violence, and on reproductive right and freedom. And meanwhile, Trump is burdened with the depending indefensible Project 2025, where he wants to cut down K through 12 education. He wants to do a ban on abortion, and he wants to cut down Social Security. And
Allister, can I answer your question?
And he's going to surrender our leadership.
Okay, Ajay, all points noted. Art, what do you think? Do you think that the Trump campaign needs a change in strategy here, given that slight edge that Harris has?
Look, Allister, what I believe that President Trump, if I was advising him, what I would tell him is you need to focus on the issues. Focus on how much was inflation when President Trump was in office? 1.9. How much was home interest rates when he was in office? 2%. Now we see inflation, they say 3-4%. Mortgages are around 6-7%. the price of gas before, when President Trump was in office, it was 1.87. Now it's about $4. So focus on the issues. The United States was much more competitive, was much more stronger when President Trump was in office, and now we see the disaster that we have in the United States under Biden Harris. We have an open border, we have crime everywhere, poor education, inflation, high rental properties. Everything is a disaster under Harris, Biden, and so that's what I would tell him. I would tell him focus on the issues. We don't know any of the policies that Ms. Harris wants to implement. She says she wants to create opportunities by creating by price eliminating price gouging, whatever that means. That's price control. Price control is a socialism technique that has never worked. President Nixon tried it in the 70s. It didn't work. It will not work now.
So, Art, on what you said, the poll concurs with you on some points. Trump continues to outperform Harris on key issues like the economy, inflation, immigration. But Art, when it comes to physical fitness, now 47% say that Harris is in a much better position as versus Trump at 37% physical and mental fitness. So how do you defend that argument? Do you think that Trump has it still in him to take on another term in the White House?
Absolutely, Allister. And the only thing we have to do is watch him do town hall after town hall, speaking to thousands and thousands of people, interviews. So not because of his age should we believe that he cannot do the job, because we see it on TV. We see it every day, his physical energy. He may be reaching 80, but he acts like a man maybe in his 60s, because he is in his heart, he has love for this country. In comparison to Mr. Biden, President Biden, that we saw every day in our TV of his decline, of his mental decline, and Vice President Harris said he's ready to go. She lied once again to the American people, saying that he was perfectly fine, when everyone saw with their own eyes that the poor man was just deteriorating. And that's a reality. But in contrast, we see President Trump, strong, vital, energetic guy.
Yeah, so right. President Biden has been one of the most transformative president in the
All right, so Ajay, what do you think?
Yeah. So President Biden has been one of the most transformative president in the United States history, where he has, we took the reins to destroyed economy from Trump, and we during the COVID time, and President Biden has the lowest unemployment.
So you
and
like high inflation?
The highest number of jobs.
Okay, Ajay, let's compare. Biden is not in the race anymore. Let's compare Trump to Harris and the age factor. What do you think of that? And let's get Ajay to respond, and I'll give you an opportunity as well. So let's try and stop talking over each other. That's okay.
Sure. Go ahead. Is there any comparison needs to be done? We have the oldest candidate who doesn't remember names, Donald Trump, who doesn't remember. He's a low energy guy, and he's losing everywhere. And his campaign polls shows that he's behind, and his own Republican friends are getting behind Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris is leading on the issues. She's ready to turn the page for a new way forward, where she's talked about her economic plan, where she's going to create, give incentives for housing to millions of Americans, for first-time house buyers, for credit, for child credit, and she's going to create, control on the price. She's going to lead us for better relations in the worldwide. I mean, and so she's the right candidate. Even though she's a very strong, we consider ourselves underdogs, and we are working hard. The next 65 days, we continue to work hard. We continue to organize. We continue to mobilize, and we continue to get out each and every vote we can to defeat Donald Trump.
Allister, if I may respond, please, because
right,
the problem is that we don't have money. We don't have, the United States has $35 trillion in deficit. Where's this money going to come from? Is it going to come from the heavens? No, it's going to come from our taxpayers. The American taxpayers don't want to continue to give all these free programs to illegal immigrants. We have 10 to 15 million illegal immigrants that are receiving free housing, free medical care, free all kinds of benefits that Biden and Harris have created. Enough already. The United States cannot continue to create and pump more money because it's going to bankrupt this country. And this is the fault of Harris
Okay,
and Biden. All this inflation is just unacceptable.
Just enough time for one last question. Now, 2/3 of Americans in that poll felt that Trump would be unprepared to accept the election result. This, of course, is no good. It worries a lot of people. No one wants to see the chaos of January 6th again. This question is to you because you are a Republican supporter. How worried should we be about a repeat of what happened on January 6th?
Well, Allister, the main problem is that if illegal immigrants start to vote, and if the American people see of electoral irregularities like we saw in November of 2020, where half of the country did not accept the election of President Biden because we saw all of the different irregularities in Nevada and Arizona and Pennsylvania and Georgia in all of the key states. President Trump was winning big numbers. And at midnight, I was on TV commenting. At midnight, they said, we're going to stop the counting. And then at 4 a.m., when they started counting again, President Biden was named president. That doesn't happen that has never happened in the United States. It happens in banana republics. So if the American people feel that this election was stolen, January the 6th is that protest that happened is going to happen all over the United States because the American people we've never had a civil war because the elections are respected. We need to respect the elections and the elections count. If Vice President Harris wins fair and square, fine, no problem. But the problem is that if they try to steal the election, it's going to be a problem.
Ajay, very quickly, 15 seconds, wrap up, please. Are you worried about a repeat of January 6th?
Of course, we are worried. I mean, because it's a shame that even today, my fellow panelist is not able to accept the elections of 2020. And in the US, we have most fair elections, which following the rule of the law. And Trump is not able to accept his defeat. And I'm sure he will not able to accept his defeat in 2024. So he will do whatever he can, but the law will take action. Win. And our officers and everything is there. So we are looking to turn the page and leave behind the divisiveness of Trump, and the country is willing to moving forward with Kamala Harris for a better future for all.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Political strategist Art Estopian joining us there, and Ajay Bhattacharya with the Democratic Party. To all the news this morning, spend big, win big. That's usually the mantra. Both the Trump and Harris campaigns have spent huge amounts of money on rallies, advertising, and travel across the United States. Now, more than ever, with only a small vote margin between candidates, securing funding is critical. For Donald Trump, the added strain of ongoing legal proceedings, meanwhile, also have been putting a huge financial crunch on him, both personally and politically as well. But where is all this campaign money really coming from? There are a few big names in the mix. Here's the dollar lowdown.
Good evening, Milwaukee! President of the United States.
Elections are not just about big speeches and promises. Money in the form of donations also plays a key role. To put it into perspective of the all-important US election, the campaigns of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have raised close to $1.3 billion so far. Heir to the Mellon banking fortune, Timothy Mellon has publicly spent more than $125 million into Trump's campaign, which is more than anyone else. The best-known name on the list, Elon Musk, has plans to spend as much as $180 million on the former president's campaign. Musk had never shown an inclination for politics, but he has made an exception for Trump. Reports say that the 78-year-old listens to Musk and also takes his advice in crucial matters such as choosing his running mate. On the other hand, ever since Joe Biden stepped away from the election race, the Democratic campaign has seen an upsurge in donations. Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn, is one of the top Democratic donors. The tech boss has also emerged as a confidant to other potential wealthy donors in Silicon Valley. Billionaire and former mayor of New York City, Mike Bloomberg, has not invested as much as he usually does. However, he tends to be a late donor. Meanwhile, reports suggest that Facebook co-founder Dustin Moskovitz widely expected to cut a major check towards the end of the election campaign. Bureau Report, NDTV World.
The much-anticipated release of Donald Trump's book, Save America, has, as expected, caused a media storm. The book promises to offer an exclusive and unparalleled glimpse into Trump's four-year presidential term. Save America is set to cover all the iconic moments from the Trump administration, offering a candid account of historic summits with other world leaders and exclusive photos handpicked by the president himself. Publicity material claims that the book will also outline the former president's so-called roadmap for his next term in office should he be elected in 2024. That's all we have time for here on US Election Watch. I'm Allister in Washington, D.C. Thanks for your company.